How's everyone doing? I hope all of you are good, so let's get started. Again, welcome to our Civics and Culture class. But before that, let us pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Bless our students with this kind of study habits that help them to do their best. Them how to develop their talents, to find the path you have set before them. Courageous and adventurous, try new things, learn new skills. Show them the importance of learning, remembering that you are always with them. Them as they acknowledge you daily. Help them to be excited about their studies, keep in their endeavors. In His name we pray. Okay, class, our topic for today is all about the early Filipino society. The early society was divided into three social classes, namely the nobles, freemen, and the slaves. Okay, class, the royal or noble group consisted of community leaders like the Datu, Raha, Sultan, and Lakan, and their relatives. The members of this group were respected. They were owned most of the lands and wealth. Next, we have the Datu or village leader serves not as an all-powerful ruler, but more of an administrator for the village or community so that it can survive. Next, we have the middle group was composed of freemen called Mawa. Very good. This group consisted of warriors and business and trade owners. They had the responsibility to serve the Datu or leader of the community and other members of the Maharlika. And the freemen helped the Datu in various ways. So as warriors in battles, as companions in missions, and as helpers in the chief guild. And in some communities at that time, only the Datu or leaders of the community and relatives were considered part of the upper class in the city, while the members of the Maharlika and Timawa both form part of the middle class. Again, class, that's Datu. Next, we have the third and lowest level of the Philippine society at that time was slaves or alipin. So the first is aliping namamahay. And class, there are two types of slaves. Number one is aliping namamahay, and who live with their lords or owners and serve them in their homes. Okay, that's aliping namamahay. And they just could not be sold, and they could eat together with their masters. They could also choose their spouses. Okay, that's aliping namamahay. And the other type was the aliping sagigilid, or true slave who could be sold or exchanged. And these slaves did the work outside the house of their lords, and such as planting in the land owned by their masters. Again, class, that's aliping sagigilid. So in Visayas, there were three kinds of slaves, namely ayue, tumarampok, and tumataban. So the first one, ayue. When do we say ayue, class? Service lord all of his life. And tumarampok had its own home. And then the last one, tumataban, was only needed when there were occasions and merry. So men did farming, and the farm using two different ways. And the first one was the slash and burn or kaingin method, which was used in highlands where portion of forests were burned to make way of planting. And class, the second was the wet rice method, which was used in lowlands where their plain land was tilted. Again, class, we have slash and burn or kaingin method and wet rice method. So the early Filipinos were also into fishing using net and poison to catch fish. And they also got pearls and corals from the seas to be used for adornment. And they hunted wild deer and boars live in the forest. Okay, next. They also did logging, producing logs and wood, and which they used for building ships like Pinta and Balangay. They used in manufacturing arms and weapons such as spears, bows, and arrows, large knives called bolo, and daggers. And aside from this class, men also mined for gold, silver, bronze, and other metals. And women were very much part of society and were not discriminated upon. They were highly respected and were almost in equal footing to men. Women are very respected in the early Filipino society. They had equal rights and opportunities as men and could even lead the community. So class, for our summary, the royal or noble group consisted of community leaders like the Datu, Raha, Sultan, and Lakan, and their relatives. And the Datu or village leader serves not as an all-powerful ruler, but more of an administrator for the village or community so that it can survive. Next, the third and the lowest level of the Philippine society at that time was slaves, or we call them as alipin. And next, yes, there were two types of slave. Okay, number one is aliping na mamahay, and then the second one is aliping sa gigilid. And men did farming, and the farm using two different ways. And in Visayas class, there were three kinds of slaves, namely, first is ayue, tumarampuk, and then the last one is tumataban. They used for building ships like the Binta and Balangay, and they used in manufacturing arms and weapons such as spears, bows, and arrows, large knives called bolo, and the daggers. And the early Filipinos were also into fishing using net and poison to catch fish. And they also got pearls and corals from the seas to be for adornment. Okay, class, for your assignment, please answer pages 23 to 25 in your gem book. Okay, thank you for listening. See you next meeting. Bye!